We won't close our service doors at 6 p.m. We won't advertise low prices on vehicles we do not have. We won't ask you to negotiate through a chain of people calling themselves managers. And we won't disappoint you with what we will do. Chevrolet, Geo, Mitsubishi, Lexus. All at the Wyzetta Auto Center, 1 mile west of 494 on 394 Old Highway 12.
From the heart of Manhattan to America's heartland. They're as hot as the 4th of July. As dazzling as the red, white, and blue. And breaking box office records from sea to shining sea. The Moscow Circus, now America's best.
Coming to the new Target Center October 24th through 28th. Tickets at Ticketmaster.
Newsflash. A runaway meteor will hit the city in 10 minutes.
Cow! Let's get out of here!
Nonsense, we haven't eaten yet.
There's no time.
How about chicken?
When you want a good meal but don't have the time, there's new Minute Chicken. Tender breast fillets that cook in just 5 minutes.
Time to go.
Great chicken.
Did I leave the oven on?
Remember, there's always time for new Minute Chicken.
Pathological liars on the next Oprah Winfrey Show.
Inside Edition will not be seen tonight. Stay tuned now for a WCCO news special, The Governor's Race.
This is a Channel 4 News special report.
Good evening, everyone. We have never witnessed one like this before, a campaign that some call dirty, most simply call embarrassing.
And perhaps the worst part is that we're having trouble even remembering what the issues are. Everyone's attention was turned to the personal life of one candidate who has been accused of sexual impropriety, of swimming naked with teenage girls.
And whether you believe it happened or not, the allegations have turned the odds against John Grunseth. Some have asked him to get out of the race, but he says that he's staying in. We are here tonight for 1/2 hour in which we have pulled all the commercial breaks to sort out what has happened, what will happen between now and the November 6th election, and ask what the tone of this race has done to Minnesota politics. We'll do it with the help from our reporters, from experts, from you, the viewers, from John Grunseth himself, with whom I spoke today at his home, and who has agreed to join us live tonight with his wife.
First, our special examines the alleged incident that has thrown the race for such a loop. Some have wanted to link it to dirty campaigning. Maybe someone planted the story, they say. But many others want to keep the alleged incident completely separate, saying that if the allegations are true, it matters not how the word got out, just that it got out. Trish Van Pilsum of our staff has followed the story all week, and she tells us tonight what we know about what happened at a Hastings, Minnesota home 9 years ago.
A party at this pool on the 4th of July, 1981. 4 teenaged girls were among the guests. Nina Grunseth, John's daughter, and her friends, Lisa Hare, Leanne Nelson, and Elizabeth Millay. 3 of those girls, all but Nina Grunseth, now tell the same story 9 years later.
Mr. Grunseth took off his swimming suit and encouraged the girls and others to encouraged everyone to take off their suits.
Lisa Hare has told reporters that she and Nina took their suits off and that John Grunseth had gone swimming nude in front of them before. Elizabeth Millay said she was surprised the girls seemed so comfortable undressing. And she said she was even more surprised when John Grunseth tried to pull down her bathing suit strap.
It was clear to me he was attempting to get at my breast.
And I categorically deny each and every charge.
The same day the girls made public their claims, John Grunseth denied them, and he promised to produce witnesses who would clear him.
It will rain affidavits
2 days later, the Grunseth campaign released these 16 signed statements from guests at the party. They're all supportive of John Grunseth. Yet 9 of the statements were signed by people who weren't even at the party at the time the skinny dipping was supposed to have occurred. And even those statements of those who remained at the party don't disprove the allegations. John Grunseth's brother Edward, for example, he said in his statement that he was at the party until about 1 o'clock. He said that he didn't see anyone in the pool at that time. He never denied seeing Grunseth skinny dipping. He never denied seeing teenagers drink. At the same time, witnesses were able to corroborate only part of the women's story. This member of the band that played at the party that night says he saw men swimming nude with young girls around, but he says he can't say whether John Grunseth was one of those men.
Of absolute political terrorism.
The Grunseth campaign's strongest response has been to attack the motives of the accusers. Why did the women wait until 3 weeks before the election to come forward? The women say they began talking about going public as soon as Grunseth had won the primary in September. During the next several weeks, they signed affidavits and gave them to an attorney. He gave the information to the Star Tribune newspaper. It published it 2 weeks later.
Rudy Perpich and his campaign have orchestrated this every step of the way.
The Grunseth campaign also pointed to the DFL ties of the parents of one of the women, Leanne Nelson, and the DFL ties of her attorney. Grunseth released a tape of a conversation between his daughter Nina and the woman, Leanne Nelson.
My parents obviously, and Tennyson obviously, have much greater reason to, I would say they have, I don't know, they have great reason to not want your father to be governor.
Leanne Nelson's father admits he's pushing this issue because he doesn't want Grunseth elected.
Not because John Grunseth is a Republican, but because he's a child abuser, and no man like that should be governor, whether he's a Democrat or a Republican or whatever.
All this leaves voters with a decision to make, who to believe.
I am absolutely devastated to be accused of lying and to be in a quote-unquote political machine. I am not a machine. I am a human being. I am a mother. I am a wife. I'm doing this because it's what I believe in.
What about the other side, the man accused? Today I sat down with IR gubernatorial candidate John Grunseth to hear his story.
It's a pretty spot, you know.
As morning broke at John Grunseth's Afton home, overlooking the St. Croix Valley, the day before him promised a meeting of independent Republican leaders who would consider whether to ask him to step aside, a lie detector test in the afternoon to support his claim of innocence, and another day of dealing with these allegations. Allegations Grunseth has maintained from the beginning are politically inspired, originated by Governor Perpich, allegations which he says are completely untrue.
Is it John Grunseth's opinion that these women are out-and-out liars?
Yes, it is, but let me come back to that for a moment. You have to remember who Leanne Nelson's parents are. They are well wired into the heart of the DFL Perpich machine in the state. I think what you get here is a situation where they were very, very heavily coached, convinced to do it, and now I think they're a little bit shocked about what they've done, and they ought to be.
Why would grown women at this point risk their futures to tell a lie about a gubernatorial candidate in the state of Minnesota?
Let me reverse that question. We are going to have over 20 affidavits now submitted in our behalf. Why would they lie? I can't speculate as to the motive of the girls' den, but if the public, given a limited amount of time and a limited amount of information, has to make a judgment, and this becomes a war of affidavits, it's no contest.
So are you suggesting by preponderance of evidence, by the sheer numbers of affidavits, that it will outweigh eventually the 2 or 3 individuals making the allegations in the first place?
Someone doesn't go out and attempt to do something as awful as been suggested here in front of their wife, their children, their friends, etc., etc. There is no logic in this at all.
Despite the fact that Grunseth says he has no concrete evidence, no smoking gun, as he puts it, to link these allegations to Governor Perpich, he is personally convinced there is a connection.
I think Rudy Perpich has demonstrated who he really is in this campaign. And I think he is a shallow, despicable, ruthless character who will do absolutely anything to get reelected.
this is a fight for John Grunseth's honor, not just for the governorship.
That's a big part of it, Don, and that's a real concern I have. But what I'm doing is weighing the thoughts and the concerns of all my constituencies, and my number one constituency is my family. I have a very important obligation to my party, and I have an important obligation to the voters of Minnesota. And more than anything else, I want to see the defeat of Rudy Perpich.
More than you want to see the correction of what you perceive as a wrong to John Grunseth and his family.
It's a close call.
Now, it may be a close call, but John Grunseth says that he is staying in the race, at least for now. If for some reason that would change, then the 325-member Republican Central Committee would have to pick a new candidate. Now, if they couldn't come up with at least 60% of the committee to agree upon one candidate, state law would say that the runner-up in the primary election becomes the candidate of choice.
And that would be Arnie Carlson. He left today for his cabin in Wisconsin, but he says he is ready and willing to step in. On the DFL side, Governor Rudy Perpich was invited to be a part of tonight's special, but he declined our invitation. However, since the allegations were made against Grunseth, Governor Perpich has repeatedly denied any involvement in bringing them to light.
All of that's public record, and that's what we always stay with, and I've never been involved in ever making any comments or contacts with any kind of rumors. All we do is work what's on the public record. We have stuck to the public record, and what we've released has been on the public record. What control of it is part of that whole process that you hear rumors from all sides.
Again, Governor Perpich declined our invitation to appear on the show tonight.
Here's what we're going to be doing for the next 15 or 20 minutes or so on this Added Dimension special. We're going to take you back through the campaign to show you how the digging into the candidates' personal lives begins early and happens often. We'll talk live with John Grunseth and his wife Vicki about what their next moves might be. And we'll take a look at the impact of negative campaigning in our state. Well, we thought we had been spared the dirty campaigning that's become so standard in so many other states. And we'll have a roundtable discussion on that. And to get your perspectives on all of this, we've had this phone bank set up with Alan Cox monitoring it. Part of the evening, we'll get the viewer response to the style and content of the governor's race, and Alan has more on that. Alan?
Don, we count 120 calls in the first hour that we ask for your opinions. It's not a scientific sample, but it does seem to indicate that some evidence of a great deal of heartfelt and in some cases heart-aching opinions. The basic question, the one pollsters and politicos are busy asking tonight, whom do you support?
I think that any candidate that has been able to stand up to the pressure that Grunseth has under these conditions has shown me a lot. I also believe that we cannot allow anyone to make accusations about a person and presume them to be guilty without proof, and we really have no proof.
Mr. Grunseth, give him hell. I'm glad you're staying in the race. A lot of us in northern Minnesota are sick and tired of Governor Goofy.
I believe that John Grunseth should step aside, even though I believe that he is innocent, because I think that the IR will lose to Rudy again unless he does.
I think, John Grunseth, you should really step down for the good of everything, for the good of the political climate in Minnesota. And if there's a problem there that you've got, take it through the court system. But don't drag us all through this. We want to hear about the issues, John.
Today's development, John Grunseth's lie detector test has voters buzzing. Some say it should be a new campaign tradition. Some say it doesn't mean much trying to sort out an incident in which some of the witnesses may have been intoxicated.
The so-called lie detector is basically a joke. It is not accepted in hardly any courts of the United States.
Somebody that's innocent can take a lie detector test and flunk it, whereas a politician is a professional liar, and professional liars can easily fool the lie detector test.
Perpich should take a lie detector test, and also those two girls. I mean, as long as Grunseth did it, I think that they should too. And then we'll get down to the crux of it.
I think if you want the Rudy Perpich campaign to take a lie detector test, he should also insist on Arnie Carlson to take a lie detector test also.
We can arrange that, but we are still taking calls here. If you have a comment or a question about what you hear tonight, please phone us at 330-1010. 330-2764. That's 330-2764. And if time permits, we'll pass it along.
At this point, we'd like to turn a corner, as we say in the television business. It is very likely we will never know for sure what really went on at the Grunseth swimming pool back in July of 1981. But what we do know is that damage has been done to the people involved, to the campaign for governor, to the Minnesota political process, most importantly, to the voters.
And it didn't happen overnight. For the first time in recent memory, Minnesota politics turned ugly. It began months ago. Government reporter Pat Kessler takes a look back.
The seeds of a dirty campaign may have been sown at the Republican convention last June, when John Grunseth's campaign prepared erroneous information about an illegitimate child fathered by fellow Republican David Printy. The allegation is false.
Well, this is obviously not the moment that we thought we would enjoy it.
Fellow Republican Arnie Carlson says the campaign was poisoned further by a series of Grunseth ads that Carlson called vicious and untrue.
Grunseth wants tougher jail sentences.
I've asked to accept your president.
After the primary, the Rudy Perpich campaign hired researchers to investigate Grunseth's personal life. Today, Perpich defended that personal investigation as proper.
It's a part of a whole package that's put together in preparing for a campaign. And it was to get the public record, period.
As a child.
On September 29th, the first results of that effort were made public.
It's a man who will not release his income tax returns, who seems to be trying to hide various things.
3 days later, Democratic lawmakers acting on behalf of the Perpich campaign revealed partially false information about Grunseth's delinquent property tax payments. And 5 days after that, the governor himself traveled to 5 outstate cities to deliver copies of Grunseth's divorce decree to reporters.
And untrue.
Grunseth, calling it gutter politics, used his daughter to respond.
Our family business is our business and nobody else's. Your crude attempt to smear my father, a great father, is a sad testament to how low you will go to get a vote.
Thank all the supporters.
But the nature of the campaign changed dramatically after Monday's allegations. Perpich claimed no role in the revelations, but again today called the information proper.
It's not good for the state, very obviously, but the fact is that character is a very important part of this whole process, and as long as it's a matter of public record, it's an issue.
In between, the media have been pelted with dirty rumors, propagated by campaigns swamped with false personal information. DFLers tied to the Perpich campaign for weeks have talked about charges of sexual harassment against John Grunseth by a former secretary, a false charge, about an alleged abortion by a candidate's daughter, again false, about DWI and assault charges, false, even the rumor of a Playboy bunny, now a member of a candidate's family, all false. Today in politics, it is standard practice to dig deeply into an opponent's personal life, and there's a simple reason to do it. Negative campaigning works. Candidates who find and use negative information are often rewarded with election victories, but that's not been common in Minnesota until now. Pat Kessler, WCCO Television News.
As we mentioned earlier in the program, Governor Perpich declined our invitation to appear tonight.
However, John Grunseth and his wife Vicki accepted, and they join us now from Afton, where their family now resides.
I'd like to welcome you both. Thanks for joining us this evening. Mr. Grunseth, a question for you. Your campaign manager has admitted that your campaign did some research on Dave Printy's background during the campaign, but never intended to use it. My question is, what's the point in doing that kind of research if you don't intend to use it?
Well, let me comment on that by commenting on Pat's lead-in report, which I think on balance was excellent. We did do research on Dave Printy and a lot of other candidates, and that's the normal course of things. We, however, never disseminated at the convention in Duluth any negative information on Dave Printy regarding his wife or their child, and that is just patently incorrect.
Well, why do you do the research in the first place?
Well, you do research in general just to see what you've got out there. For example, in the case of Dave Printy, we checked with a lot of Security and Exchange Commission data, that sort of thing, looking for any type of impropriety. But I want to point out one other thing. This campaign has never waged a personal attack on anyone. We've attacked people on issues, and I think that's appropriate, and I think that's proper. But what is improper, in my view, is when you wage personal attacks on someone.
Mr. Grunseth, let me ask you if you had the kind of information in your hip pocket that people have put together on you, these allegations regarding the swimming party on July 4th of 1981. If you had this kind of information in the form that it was found, would you use it against another candidate in this case? Would you use it against Governor Perpich?
Dan, let me answer that by saying this. We get a lot of phone calls, as does every campaign, regarding a variety of rumors, specifically on Rudy Perpich, for example. Rumors regarding the Hal Greenwood situation, the Terry Montgomery situation, and other related things. We have chosen intentionally as a campaign not to campaign on those issues because there are good, solid issues out there that we can campaign on and that we've tried very hard to campaign on.
Mrs. Grunseth, how has the events of the past couple of weeks affected you and your family?
Well, it's been very hard on all of us. I think what we found is that we're stronger people than probably we ever knew we were able to be. But it isn't just our family, it goes beyond that. We've been campaigning for 22 months now. We went through a great Republican convention, and a lot of the process leading up to that made a lot of supporters of us very committed to this campaign and to what we believe in. And then once again with the primary, we increased our support. And it isn't just how it affects the Grunseth family, it's how it affects all those people all across Minnesota who've stuck their neck out for us and believe in us and believe that we are the right candidate to represent Minnesota. So it's not, you don't just carry the burden around for yourself, which is hard enough, and when you send your kids to school and you're not sure what the day's going to be like for them, that's a pretty tough thing to take personally, but you also have to think about all the other people that have a stake in John Grunseth in this campaign.
Mr. Grunseth, if you knew back then what you know now, what this campaign was going to turn out to be like, would you have run? Would you do it again?
No, I wouldn't. I took over 7 months to make the decision to run for governor because I knew it would sidetrack my career, have an impact on us financially, and put the family through a very tough and difficult situation. I never dreamed that we'd be in this situation today. When Rudy Perpich took this campaign into the mud 3 weeks ago with the divorce issue and other issues, I was horrified enough. This is just beyond our wildest comprehension.
Mr. Grunseth, final question for this evening. Are you absolutely committed at this point, after what you've heard today from the executive committee, to be in this race on November 6th?
Don, I am, and we're going to press this campaign very, very hard tomorrow morning when we release the data from the lie detector test. The pressure now, in my view, is on Rudy Perpich, George Perpich, Rudy Perpich Jr., Stanek, Tennyson, the whole gang, to release the telephone records, the travel records, to open up to the press the Perpich campaign, their phone records at home and elsewhere, to prove unequivocally that they haven't been involved in this thing. I've done everything I can at this point, being denied, of course, a fair trial, to prove my innocence, and that means a lot of affidavits and it means a lie detector test. That's the best I can do now, so they need to step forth at this time.
John and Vicki Grunseth, thank you very much for being with us tonight to help explain things.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now in a moment, we've got some remarkable things to show you about just how dirty campaigns can get.
We're going to talk about, take about 20 seconds here to regroup, no more than that, and then we'll be back to tell you more about it. Now it is time to talk about the story behind this particular race and these particular allegations.
Time to take a look at the whole issue of negative campaigning. It may be a relatively new event in Minnesota politics, but if you take a look at what's going on in states across the country, you get an idea of what a sheltered life our voters have led. Here's Dave Moore.
In Illinois, Senator Paul Simon was called a weenie. In Nebraska, Senator Jim Exxon was described as one of the 2 or 3 biggest boozers in the Senate. In Texas, Clayton Williams called Ann Richards a liar to her face and then refused to shake her hand. All this in the last week. What's the political world coming to?
Negative campaigning has taken over the political scene from coast to coast, unfortunately, in this country. And they've seen that the highest office in the land, the presidency, was won handily and overwhelmingly through the use of negative campaigning.
Dukakis not only opposes the death penalty, he allowed first-degree murderers to have weekend passes from prison. One was Willie Horton, who murdered a boy in a robbery, stabbing him 19 times.
The Willie Horton commercial proved attack advertising works. What was once perceived as a last-ditch effort by a desperate candidate is now part of mainstream campaigns. In Maine,
Congressman Brennan, meet Governor Brennan. Governor Brennan supported Maine Yankee nuclear plant. Congressman Brennan opposed it. Now he says he supports it again. What will he be next?
And back to Texas.
Did she use marijuana or something worse like cocaine?
When you see Jim Maddox on TV, watch his lips. If they're moving, he could be lying.
Why does Senator Frank Tejeda vote for the big insurance companies? Maybe it's because they pay him to vote that way.
Even smear practitioners are beginning to express disgust.
You ready? No more mud. Let's argue about the issues.
Minnesota has not been a mudslinging state. Political campaigns have been pretty decent here. In fact, we had a kind of reputation, national reputation, perhaps undeserved, but we had it, that we were an issue-oriented state. We were an issue-oriented electorate.
The problem is the issues are often complicated and boring. Once voters, even Minnesota voters, have been tantalized with the candidate's personal dirt, such things as taxes and education can seem dull. Some political analysts blame television for the negative campaign climate, but until now, Minnesota's two nastiest political campaigns happened long before television was even a factor. 1918, it was World War I. The incumbent governor, J.A.A. Brinquist, used his powers to prevent his rival, Charles Lindbergh Sr., from even campaigning in half the state. And in 1938, Governor Elmer Benson ran for re-election and lost to dirty tricks.
It was the only time in my knowledge that political anti-Semitism and overt accusations of a governor being a communist actually worked in a political campaign.
Whether Campaign 90 is a sign of things to come from Minnesota is unknown. But in Texas, where mudslinging is as much a tradition as the Old West, they've found it's hard to stop.
Once you have pulled the knife, it's pretty difficult to put it back in its sheath.
And so the larger question raised by this year's Minnesota governor's race is, have we drawn that knife in our state politics? And if so, what can we do about it?
And to answer that, we're going to go to a roundtable discussion among some of the strategists and foot soldiers who wage political campaigns in Minnesota. And joining us tonight are Hy Berman, history professor at the University of Minnesota and a delegate to the DFL State Convention.
State Representative Kathleen Blatz, Republican of Bloomington.
Pat Forcia, political consultant for a number of DFL campaigns.
Mike Dunstan, who supported IR candidate Doug Kelly in the primary, is now a leader of Minnesotans for Right Choice. That's WRITE, the group that's been pushing for Arnie Carlson as a write-in candidate.
And Larry Greenberg, vice president of the citizens group Common Cause, which isn't affiliated with either party.
And to chair the discussion, WCCO's crack political reporter Pat Kessler. Pat.
Don, thanks very much. There seems to be a great deal of indecision, a tremendous amount of indecision and uneasiness about this race, it appears, folks. Voters were having a tough time before deciding on a candidate, even before all this mud started to fly back and forth. They must be having a tremendously difficult time now. Mike, I want to start with you. Are you affiliated with any campaign?
Only the one I'm involved with now.
Okay.
But up until the primaries, no.
Active politically?
No.
Call yourself an average voter?
I'd say so.
Then I'm going to impose upon you the mantle of average voter. I want you to speak for the average voter. What are you getting out of this governor's race?
Well, Minnesotans for the Right Choice has allowed a lot of us to plug ourselves into the average voter, to the extent that we are, in the last 24 hours since announcing our campaign.
But why did you do that? What are you getting out of this race?
We're finding a great deal of dismay, shock, at the kinds of allegations and the conducts of the candidates, the a possible state of paralysis that may in fact occur come election day that has a lot of us extremely concerned, because that in the end could wind up resulting in elected officials who would not have been elected had a broader turnout occurred.
Have you ever seen anything this bad?
I haven't. I've seen some pretty nasty campaigns. I've seen the stuff in Texas. That's always kind of macho, all right? This is not a macho state. This is a state of intellect.
Well, we hear the people in Texas are pulling up stakes to come up here where the action is. I want Hi, Berman, let's go to you.
Yes.
Let me ask you about this.
Yeah.
He says it's pretty bad. I mean, is this the worst?
Oh, no.
This is nothing, huh?
This is nothing. This is kind of mild. First of all, you know, sexual innuendo as an issue in a campaign is rare in the state. That's true. And the issue of governors or governors' candidates' character is rare in the state. But we've had nasty and dirty campaigns in the past. True, it didn't have to do with skinny dipping in a pool. It had to do with accusations of candidates being communist, Jew lovers, being Hun lovers and stuff like that, which is, I think, a worse kind of negative campaigning than the thing we see now.
Well, you're willing to admit this is second worst?
Well,
I mean, come on.
Welcome to the national experience. Or another way of looking at it, the illusion of Minnesota exceptionalism has finally been dropped.
All right, let me go to Kathleen Blatz. Kathleen, you're the only politician, the only person who has to go out and actually knock on doors and ask somebody for a vote. Is this changing the face of Minnesota politics?
I can tell you that my colleagues and I mean, nobody even wants to door knock this week. And I've been out there. And to me, this campaign is adding credibility to the cynicism that many people already have about politicians. If they don't say outwardly what they think, inwardly they always wear, we cheats, liars, will we say anything to get elected. And now they don't know who to believe, they don't know who they want to vote for, and they're forgetting that 201 legislative seats are up, the United States Senate seat, all the constitutional officers. So I think we're all painted with the same brush, and I think it's most unfortunate.
Are you proud to be a politician?
Are you kidding? No, I think it's, personally, yes, I am. But in this time, when you're out even defending, really, it's a profession, the bond with the people, the trust that you want to have, and you've got to answer the questions of, was someone swimming with somebody? Is he lying? Did they plant the, did they plant
Sure.
this information? I mean, it's hard to feel proud about what you're doing, because I, as an elected official, even on a state level, I can't talk about some of the issues that I'm caring about, and to date, we still, 3 weeks before the election, still have not had a debate on taxes, spending, education, environment, and we're going into the countdown right now.
Okay, let me go across the table to Larry. Common Cause has been looking at campaigns for quite some time. Do you believe this is changing the face of campaigns in Minnesota?
Yes, I do. We have been concerned with the lack of ethics in individuals and in parties and in politics. And I think that this may be, I was interested in Hi's remarks, may be the beginning of much more disillusionment, much more concern on the part of the electorate. You can't even trust the candidate. It was bad enough you couldn't trust the party. But now we can't even hear the issues. We don't know what's going on. And
Don't voters, however, have a right to know this stuff?
Oh, sure. I think we're really concerned about the ethics of the individual who's leading us, who's making decisions about what's happening in our state and in our country. But at the same time, to the degree it eclipses all the other issues,
Yeah.
how can we be an informed electorate?
Sure. Sitting next to you is Pat Forcia. Pat, is it not true that negative campaigning works?
Certainly has worked in other parts of the country. It remains to be seen whether it's going to work here. I think the best news about politics today is that there are no statewide elections in '92 in Minnesota, and it's my hope that this negative campaigning that we're really seeing here for the first time blows through our state this year and doesn't surface again.
You can't
I think
be
people
serious.
I believe that this is not an impossible problem to solve, Pat. The people involved in politics, whether they be candidates, advisors, or whatever, simply have to look in the mirror and decide whether they want to continue with this kind of campaigning. It's a very solvable problem. And I think one of the interesting things about this November is that I think your average in Minnesota is a much more intelligent, serious voter than just about in any other state in the country. And I think folks are going to look through a lot of this garbage and focus on those candidates that have steered clear of this kind of campaigning.
But you go ahead, Mike.
Pat, if reinforced, that kind of campaigning, that kind of behavior can be expected to continue. What we're hearing and seeing now coming out of the voters is it's not being reinforced. In fact, it's being punished. And if you look at the, for example, this morning's St. Paul Pioneer Press Dispatch, look at the letters to the editor and the outrage and umbrage. Voters are furious, and they're not going to take it anymore.
The other thing that I think will surface after this fall is candidates will realize that going negative comes at a great risk. It's almost as if you're playing with dynamite, and one of the things that's happening this fall is John ran a very negative campaign at certain points in time in the primary. Now that dynamite has exploded. And candidates need to understand that once you start going negative, it can very quickly boomerang against you.
Well, you can't. One person is going to win, however, and that person is going to be victorious because of a negative campaign.
Wrong. Because that doesn't have to be one of the two candidates that the two parties have foisted up in front of us. The two are down there in the mud pit slugging it out. And I don't think the voters of Minnesota, that's why our coalition has come together, a bipartisan coalition. We are setting aside party standards and party loyalties, simply going for what's right. What do you, tell us from your heart, where are the issues? Where do you stand? Talk to us intellectually. Give us some integrity. Give us some leadership. And that's why we're standing behind our
Mike, the person that Mike is supporting, several of his supporters have been the most active in terms of disseminating all this information about John.
You know, I don't think we should even be getting into that, because I could give you a speech on what I think about.
See, right away, no, we got a round table here talking about ethics, and we're getting into some negative campaigning,
right?
People spreading rumors. Now we're about done here. I got to wrap this up.
Yeah, all right. But basically, I think what this is going to do is going to put Minnesota in the downtrend in terms of voter participation. Minnesota's always been at the head of the pack, maybe because there wasn't. This is going to put us right in
very quickly. We're going to get back to issues in 2 weeks. Do you think there's a chance of that? Very quickly.
No.
Yes. No. 1 yes, 4 no's.
You're not going to get the candidates either. That's a sad
I've got
thing.
to end it. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
we really
you.
appreciate it. Don?
All right, thank you very much to all of you. We'd like to thank you who called in and to all of the people who answered the phone here at the phone banks. We will use what you have said. We have noted it. It will be helpful in how we go about covering this up until the November 6th election.
And many of the people who called tonight say they are just sick and tired of what has been going on in the campaigns here lately.
Not surprisingly.
And of course, we've heard a lot of talk this week about voter apathy and low voter turnout expected due to the events of this campaign.
But before we say goodnight, let's all remember that this is not the only race that will be decided come November 6th.
That's right. Minnesotans will be asked to pick a U.S. Senator, all members of the House of Representatives, and members of the state legislature, just to name a few.
There is one very good way to make a difference in all of this, and that is, of course, to cast your vote come Election Day.
And with that, we want to say good night and thank you again for joining us.
Good night.
The best sports teams.
CCO has all the great sports, the Vikings, Twins, Gopher basketball, and more. And I enjoy being part of all that action.
The best sports coverage.
Whether we're covering prep sports or local special events, we'll try to capture all the excitement and bring that home to you.
The best sports for you.
Looking for action-packed sports? We've got them all, from recreation type to the great sport of fishing.